The day everything changed. It was an unusually quiet morning at Keanu Reeves's Los Angeles home, tucked away from the flashing lights of Hollywood. The house, surrounded by lush greenery and towering oaks, stood as a refuge, a place where Keanu could simply be himself. Though the world knew him as an actor, a global superstar whose face graced movie screens for decades, within these walls he was something much simpler: a father, a man seeking peace, and a soul who often carried unseen burdens. The sun had barely broken through the mist when Keanu's 12-year-old son, Leo Reeves, tiptoed downstairs. School was out for the summer, and while most children would be sleeping in, Leo had inherited his father's early riser habit. Quiet by nature and curious beyond his years, Leo loved to spend mornings reading or sketching, often finding his father already up with a cup of coffee in hand. But this morning felt different. The house was too quiet. The gentle sounds of the piano that usually drifted from the living room were absent. No faint clinking of mugs or the smell of toast. Something was missing. After wandering through the living room and kitchen, Leo noticed the door to his father's home office slightly ajar. That door was rarely left open, especially when his father was inside. A soft light glowed from within. What Leo saw next would be forever etched in his young mind. Keanu was seated at his desk, the famous shoulders usually so steady and relaxed now hunched forward. His head was buried in his hands. Silent tears streamed down his face, tracing the lines of a life that had seen both staggering success and heartbreaking loss. The man the world adored as stoic and strong looked in that moment utterly human and heartbreakingly vulnerable. Leo froze, unsure of what to do. His father had always been a pillar of calm and kindness, his gentle presence making every moment feel safe. To see him like this, broken and alone, shook Leo in ways he couldn't explain. He instinctively wanted to turn and leave to give his father privacy, but something deeper pulled him forward. Quietly, he pushed the door open and stepped inside. Keanu looked up, startled, quickly wiping his face with the sleeve of his black t-shirt. His voice, usually warm and composed, cracked as he spoke. "Leo, what are you doing up so early?" The boy hesitated. I was just reading. I saw the door open." His gaze remained locked on his father, eyes wide with worry. "Dad, are you okay?" For a long moment, Keanu didn't answer. The silence between them stretched, thick with unspoken emotion. Finally, with a deep, trembling breath, he patted the seat beside him. "Come here, son." Leo approached and sat next to him. Keanu rested a gentle hand on his son's shoulder, his touch both comforting and fragile. "Sometimes," Keanu began softly, "even grown-ups have days when the weight of life feels too heavy." Leo tilted his head. "Why? You always look so happy, Dad. You always tell me to be strong." Keanu smiled faintly, a bittersweet curve of his lips. "Being strong doesn't mean you never feel sad, Leo. It means you find the courage to face those feelings, even when they scare you." He glanced at the framed photograph on his desk, a picture of a woman with kind eyes and a soft smile. It was Jennifer Syme, Leo's late mother and the love of Keanu's life. Her sudden passing years ago had left an ache that never fully healed, though Keanu had done everything to shelter Leo from the deepest shadows of that loss. There were days when the sorrow surfaced uninvited. Today was one of those days. Seeing his father in such pain made Leo's heart ache. "Is it about Mom?" he asked gently. Keanu nodded, eyes glistening anew. "I miss her very much. Some days it hits harder than others. I didn't want you to see me like this." Leo reached for his father's hand, grasping it tightly in both of his. "It's okay, Dad. You always tell me it's okay to cry. Why shouldn't it be okay for you too?" The innocence and wisdom in his son's words washed over Keanu like a balm. In that moment, he realized something profound, that perhaps shielding Leo from his own grief had also robbed them of an opportunity to heal together. He squeezed Leo's hand and whispered, "Thank you, my brave boy. You're teaching me more than I can ever teach you." They sat there in quiet embrace, father and son bound by love, loss, and a deepening understanding of each other. The sun climbed higher outside, casting gentle beams through the window. Life moved on beyond those walls, but inside the room, time seemed to pause, a sacred space where vulnerability was not weakness but strength. What neither of them knew was that this simple moment would ripple outward in ways they couldn't yet imagine. Over the coming days, this shared vulnerability would spark a series of events that would test their bond, challenge their beliefs, and ultimately inspire millions. It would begin with a single, unexpected gesture, a moment caught on camera that would go viral worldwide. But for now, father and son sat quietly, two hearts beating in the stillness, embracing the truth that sometimes the strongest thing you can do is let yourself be seen. The camera catches everything. The following days in the Reeves household unfolded, with a quiet tenderness that was new yet deeply needed. Ever since the morning when Leo had walked into his father's office and seen him crying, something between them had subtly shifted. Keanu, a man known for his reserved nature and quiet resilience, now found himself allowing space for more open conversations with his son, moments where grief and love could coexist without shame. Leo, for his part, displayed a maturity that moved Keanu beyond words. The boy's instinct to comfort and his simple understanding of life's complexities seemed far beyond his years, a trait Keanu both admired and worried about. He wanted his son to have a childhood untouched by the sorrows of adulthood, but he also knew that shielding him completely would deny him the tools to face life honestly. It was during one of these tender mornings that Leo proposed a small but profound idea. "Dad," he said over breakfast, his spoon swirling absent-mindedly in a bowl of oatmeal, "what if you talked about it? Not just to me, but to others, too. Maybe it could help someone." Keanu looked up, caught off guard by the suggestion. "Talk about losing your mother?" he asked softly. Leo nodded. "Yeah, you always say kindness is sharing what we learn. Maybe other people feel alone, like you do sometimes." The simplicity of the thought struck Keanu deeply. For years, he had processed his grief privately, believing it to be something too personal, too fragile to share with the public. The world saw the actor, the man of mystery and humility, not the father who sometimes wept alone in his office. But here was his son, urging him to see vulnerability not as a weakness but as an act of service. The idea stayed with Keanu throughout the day. It lingered as he read scripts, as he answered emails, and even as he practiced martial arts in his home gym, a ritual that usually helped clear his mind. That evening, after putting Leo to bed with a goodnight kiss on his forehead, Keanu sat once more in his office. The photograph of Jennifer seemed to meet his gaze, her eyes twinkling with the same gentle encouragement that Leo had voiced that morning. Slowly, deliberately, Keanu reached for his phone. He opened the camera app, hesitated for a breath, then pressed record. What followed was an unscripted, deeply personal monologue that poured straight from his heart. Seated in his familiar worn leather chair, Keanu spoke softly to the lens. "Hi," he began, his voice steady but warm. "I'm not here as an actor today. I'm here as a father, as someone who has loved and lost, and who has learned that sometimes the greatest kindness we can offer is to let others see that they're not alone." For the next 10 minutes, he shared his journey with grief, not as a celebrity but as a human being. He spoke of the moments that shattered him, of the guilt that followed happiness, of the small victories in learning to smile again. And most importantly, he spoke of the lesson his son had taught him, that vulnerability, when shared with compassion, could become a bridge to healing for others. When he finished, Keanu didn't think twice. He uploaded the video to his personal but rarely used YouTube channel, titled simply, "A Message About Grief from My Heart to Yours." He expected little. Perhaps a few of his longtime fans would see it. Maybe some kind comments would trickle in. He did not anticipate what would happen next. By morning, the video had been viewed over 2 million times. His team, who usually managed his professional social media presence, called him in astonishment. "Keanu, the video is everywhere," his agent said, voice tinged with disbelief. "People are sharing it like wildfire. Journalists, mental health advocates, even schools. Everyone's talking about it." Still groggy from sleep, Keanu logged onto his account. The comment section had exploded with thousands of heartfelt responses. Messages from people who had lost loved ones, from parents struggling to be strong for their children, from strangers, simply thanking him for giving words to feelings they couldn't express. Amid the torrent of responses, one comment stood out, pinned to the top by YouTube's algorithm. It read, "Sometimes seeing someone you admire be human is the greatest gift of all. Thank you, Keanu, for reminding us it's okay to feel." Tears welled in Keanu's eyes once more, but this time they were not born of sorrow alone. They were tears of connection, of a profound realization that through one act of honesty, he had touched countless lives. But the story didn't end there. Among the millions who watched the video was a local news producer named Maya Lin, whose network specialized in uplifting human interest stories. Moved by Keanu's message, she reached out with a simple request. Would he be willing to share more, perhaps in an interview that could reach an even broader audience? Keanu hesitated. The idea of discussing such personal matters on television felt daunting. But when he brought it up with Leo that evening, the boy simply smiled and said, "Dad, if it helps even one more person, it's worth it." And so, with his son's unwavering encouragement, Keanu agreed. The interview was scheduled for the following week, to be filmed in the comfort of his home. Leo would be present, not on camera but behind the scenes, providing silent support. What neither of them knew was that this interview would soon become one of the most talked about segments of the year, a moment that would not only deepen Keanu's public image but also spark conversations about grief, healing, and human connection across the globe. As the day of filming approached, Keanu prepared not with rehearsed answers or polished sound bites, but with the same authenticity that had resonated so deeply in his video. He reminded himself that this was not about fame or image. It was about honoring the truth of his experience and, hopefully, giving comfort to those who needed it. On the morning of the interview, the production crew arrived early. Lights were set up in the living room, microphones tested, cameras positioned discreetly to capture the most natural angles. Throughout the bustling setup, Leo remained at his father's side, a steady presence of quiet encouragement. Before the cameras rolled, Keanu knelt to meet his son's eyes. "Leo," he said softly, "thank you for giving me the courage to do this." The boy hugged him tightly. "I'm proud of you, Dad." When the interview began, Keanu spoke with the same heartfelt honesty that had made his video go viral. He shared his journey through grief, the unexpected lessons of fatherhood, and the importance of allowing ourselves to be vulnerable. At one point, the interviewer asked, "What gave you the courage to share this so publicly?" Without hesitation, Keanu smiled and replied, "My son. He reminded me that kindness isn't just about grand gestures. Sometimes it's about sharing your story so others know they're not alone." The segment aired later that week. Within hours, it trended worldwide. Social media buzzed with clips from the interview, and hashtags like Keanu Kindness and It Is Okay to Feel began to flood timelines. More importantly, mental health organizations and grief support groups reported an unprecedented surge in outreach and engagement, crediting the interview with helping to break down stigmas around expressing emotion. In the days that followed, letters began to arrive at Keanu's home. Hundreds, then thousands. Handwritten notes, emails, drawings from children who had lost parents, stories from people who had struggled in silence until they heard his words. Keanu read each one with reverence, often sharing them with Leo. Together they marveled at the ripple effect of a single act of honesty. One evening, as they sat in the backyard beneath a canopy of stars, Leo turned to his father. "Dad, do you think Mom can see all of this?" Keanu looked up at the night sky, its vastness echoing the depth of his love and loss. "I believe she can," he whispered. "And I think she'd be very proud of you." They sat in silence, hearts full as the stars blinked softly above, a quiet testament to the truth that sometimes the smallest voices can inspire the greatest acts of kindness, and that even in our deepest sorrow, we can find ways to help others heal. What lay ahead for Keanu and Leo would soon test their newfound openness in ways they couldn't yet foresee. For with growing attention came unexpected challenges, and one moment, captured by a stranger's camera, would soon thrust their story into the global spotlight in ways neither had prepared for. But through it all, they would hold fast to the simple truth they had discovered together, that kindness, when born from vulnerability, can change the world. A moment that shook the world. The days following the viral interview brought a whirlwind of attention that neither Keanu nor Leo had anticipated. The global response was staggering. News outlets from every corner of the world picked up the story, praising Keanu's courage and sincerity. Mental health professionals applauded his willingness to speak openly about grief, calling it a powerful step toward destigmatizing emotional vulnerability. Fans, both old and new, flooded social media with messages of support and gratitude. Keanu, however, remained grounded. Fame had never been his pursuit, nor had the spotlight ever been a place he sought for comfort. Yet amidst the overwhelming attention, one truth anchored him: Leo's unwavering belief in the goodness that could arise from shared honesty. It was this belief that continued to guide Keanu through the tidal wave of public interest. In the midst of this media storm, Keanu's professional commitments resumed. A long-planned charity gala benefiting children's hospitals was scheduled in downtown Los Angeles. Keanu had agreed to attend months earlier, long before the interview had aired. Now, with his public image transformed by his heartfelt message, his appearance at the gala carried new weight. Reporters speculated about his remarks, fans clamored for a glimpse, and the event organizers prepared for unprecedented media coverage. On the evening of the gala, Keanu stood before the mirror in his modest dressing room, adjusting his simple black suit. He had always preferred understated elegance, eschewing the lavish displays that many in his industry favored. As he tied his slim black tie, Leo entered the room, dressed neatly in a dark blazer and crisp white shirt. "You look sharp, Dad," Leo said with a grin. Keanu smiled, warmth radiating through the tired lines of his face. "So do you, buddy. Ready for the circus?" Leo nodded, though a flicker of uncertainty crossed his eyes. Keanu knelt to meet his son's gaze. "Remember, Leo, no matter how many cameras flash or microphones are pushed in our faces, we stay true to ourselves. We speak from the heart. That's all that matters." Reassured, Leo took his father's hand, and together they made their way to the grand ballroom. The gala itself was a dazzling affair. Crystal chandeliers sparkled above tables adorned with cascading floral arrangements. Celebrities mingled with philanthropists, and photographers lined the velvet ropes, their cameras flashing in a relentless rhythm. Keanu's arrival caused an immediate stir. Reporters shouted questions, eager to capture a fresh headline. Fans cheered and called out his name, their voices blending into a chorus of admiration. But amidst the chaos, Keanu remained centered, guiding Leo gently through the throng. Inside, the atmosphere was no less intense. Attendees whispered as Keanu and Leo entered, their eyes drawn not to the star power, but to the genuine bond between father and son. The evening unfolded with speeches, performances, and heartfelt testimonials from children whose lives had been touched by the hospital's work. Keanu listened intently, his heart swelling with empathy and resolve. As the night progressed, an auction was held to raise additional funds. Celebrities offered memorabilia, exclusive experiences, and personal artifacts for bidding. When Keanu's turn came, he stood before the crowd holding a small worn leather journal, a treasured possession he had kept for years, filled with reflections, poetry, and sketches born from his journey through grief. "This journal," Keanu began, his voice steady yet resonant with emotion, "contains pieces of my heart. I never intended to part with it, but if its pages can help heal lives beyond my own, then I offer it tonight." The room fell silent, moved by the gesture. Bidding began, and the numbers climbed swiftly, driven not by celebrity allure but by the deep resonance of Keanu's story. The journal ultimately fetched a staggering sum, with all proceeds directed to the children's hospital. As Keanu returned to his seat, Leo beamed with pride. "That was amazing, Dad," he whispered. Keanu squeezed his son's hand. "We did it together, buddy." The night drew to a close with a standing ovation for the evening's efforts. Guests began to depart, their hearts full. Keanu and Leo lingered, taking time to speak with families and hospital staff. It was during one of these quiet moments that an unexpected encounter occurred, one that would soon catapult their story into an entirely new realm of global awareness. As Keanu knelt beside a young patient, offering gentle words of encouragement, an amateur videographer captured the scene on their phone. The footage, raw and unscripted, showed Keanu embracing the child with tenderness, speaking softly about hope and resilience. The child, eyes wide with admiration, clung to him as if drawing strength from his presence. Unbeknownst to Keanu, the video was uploaded to social media within hours, accompanied by the caption, "Keanu Reeves, a true hero," not just on screen but in life. By morning, the clip had amassed millions of views. Media outlets replayed it endlessly, and hashtags surged once more. The world was captivated by the authenticity of the moment, a superstar humbling himself before a child in need, embodying compassion without pretense. Calls for interviews flooded Keanu's team, but he declined most, preferring to let the moment speak for itself. Yet as the video spread, so too did invitations to participate in global forums on mental health and grief support. Nonprofits reached out, seeking his voice in campaigns aimed at fostering openness and empathy. Amidst this growing momentum, an opportunity arose that neither Keanu nor Leo could ignore. The United Nations, recognizing the impact of his message, extended an invitation for Keanu to speak at an upcoming global summit on mental health awareness. The summit would bring together world leaders, activists, and influencers committed to breaking down barriers surrounding emotional well-being. It was an unprecedented honor and a daunting responsibility. Keanu wrestled with the decision. Speaking to millions on such a grand stage was far removed from the quiet honesty of his initial video. Doubts crept in, and the weight of expectation pressed heavily upon him. But once again, it was Leo who provided clarity. One evening, as they sat by the fireplace, Keanu voiced his uncertainty. "I'm not sure I'm the right person for this, Leo. I'm just me, a father who misses someone he loved." Leo looked at his father with unwavering conviction. "That's exactly why you should do it, Dad. People need to hear from someone real, someone who understands." Moved by his son's wisdom, Keanu made his choice. He would speak, not as an actor, but as a human being dedicated to fostering kindness and connection. Preparations for the summit began in earnest. Keanu worked closely with speechwriters and mental health advocates to craft a message that would resonate globally. Throughout the process, Leo remained his steadfast confidant, offering insights that grounded the speech in authenticity. The bond between father and son deepened with each passing day, forged in the fires of shared purpose. As the summit approached, the world watched with anticipation. News outlets speculated about what Keanu might say, and social media buzzed with support. Yet amidst the clamor, Keanu remained focused on a single truth: that in revealing his own vulnerability, he might help others find the courage to do the same. The night before the summit, Keanu sat once more in his office, the same room where the journey had begun. The photograph of Jennifer rested beside him, her gentle smile a constant source of strength. Leo entered quietly, sensing the gravity of the moment. "Are you ready, Dad?" he asked softly. Keanu looked at his son, eyes filled with gratitude and resolve. "I am," he replied, "and it's because of you." They embraced, father and son united by love and purpose. As dawn approached, they prepared to embark on a journey that would soon inspire millions anew. What awaited them at the summit would test their courage, challenge their resolve, and ultimately reaffirm the timeless power of kindness, perseverance, and empathy. The Summit of Hope. The day of the Global Mental Health Summit dawned clear and cool, the sun rising over Geneva with a quiet promise of new beginnings. The Grand Hall of the United Nations headquarters buzzed with activity as delegates, activists, and thought leaders from every corner of the world gathered for what was being called a historic event. The invitation to speak at such a gathering had been both humbling and daunting for Keanu Reeves. Though the world knew him as a man who moved with quiet dignity through the relentless spotlight of fame, standing before a global audience to speak, not of films or fame but of grief and healing, was something entirely different. Yet as the hour approached, Keanu's resolve held firm, strengthened by the unwavering encouragement of his son Leo. Together they had traveled to Geneva, father and son bound not only by blood, but by a shared mission born from the most personal of experiences. In the hours leading up to the speech, Keanu sat in a modest room within the United Nations building, the familiar photograph of Jennifer tucked safely into his pocket, a silent talisman of love and memory. Leo sat beside him, his small hand resting reassuringly on his father's knee. They spoke little, the depth of their understanding requiring no words. The journey that had begun with a moment of shared vulnerability in a quiet office now stood on the precipice of touching countless lives across the globe. The world waited beyond those walls, yet in that quiet space all that mattered was the simple truth they carried together, that it was through the open acknowledgement of pain and the courage to feel deeply that healing could begin. When the moment came, Keanu rose with calm determination. Clad in a simple black suit and dark tie, he moved through the corridors of the grand building with Leo at his side, their steps measured and steady. The main assembly hall was a sea of faces, their collective gaze fixed upon the stage where voices of hope would soon echo. As Keanu approached the podium, the room fell into an expectant hush. Cameras from around the world beamed the moment live to millions watching from their homes, hospitals, and schools. Taking a deep breath, Keanu looked out over the gathering, not as a celebrity, but as a man who had known loss, love, and the redemptive power of human connection. His voice, rich with sincerity, resonated through the vast hall as he began. I stand before you today not as an actor, not as a public figure, but as a father and a fellow human being who has walked through the valley of loss and emerged, scarred, yet still standing, Keanu began, his gaze sweeping the assembly. Grief is a universal experience. It knows no borders, no race, no status. It humbles us all, reminding us of the fragility of life and the depth of our capacity to love. He spoke of Jennifer, of the day that had shattered his world, and of the long, uncharted path that followed. He described the countless nights spent searching for solace in the quiet hours when the rest of the world slept, and the moments of unexpected grace that began to weave the fabric of healing. As he continued, Keanu's voice grew stronger, carrying the weight of hard-won understanding. For too long, we have been taught that to grieve is to be weak, that to show emotion is to fail. Yet I have learned that true strength lies in embracing our vulnerability. In sharing our stories, we create spaces where others feel safe to the same. The assembly listened in rapt attention as he recounted the pivotal moment when his son had found him weeping, and the profound lesson Leo had imparted. It was through the eyes of my young son that I came to understand the transformative power of empathy and kindness. He reminded me that by opening our hearts, we offer others the permission to do the same. Keanu spoke of the viral video, the countless messages from strangers who had found solace in his words, and the incredible ripple effect of a single act of honesty. Each of us carries within us the capacity to be a beacon of hope, he continued, not through grand gestures, but through the simple everyday acts of kindness that remind others they are not alone. A listening ear, a compassionate word, a shared tear. These are the threads that weave the fabric of human connection. As his speech drew to a close, Keanu looked directly into the cameras, his message reaching beyond the walls of the assembly hall. To anyone watching who carries the weight of grief or the ache of unspoken sorrow, know this: you are not alone. There is strength in vulnerability, courage in feeling, and hope in reaching out. Together we can build a world where empathy is not an exception, but a way of life. The hall erupted in a standing ovation as Keanu stepped back from the podium, his heart pounding with the enormity of what had just transpired. Delegates rose from their seats, their applause echoing through the vast space in a powerful testament to the universality of his message. Amidst the sea of clapping hands, Keanu's gaze found Leo's. The boy stood beaming, tears shimmering in his eyes as he clapped with fervent pride. In that moment, all the accolades of his storied career paled in comparison to the simple truth of a father making his son proud. In the days that followed, Keanu's speech became a global phenomenon. Clips circulated across social media, news networks aired it in its entirety, and mental health organizations hailed it as a watershed moment in the ongoing effort to destigmatize grief and emotional vulnerability. The phrase, "It's okay to feel," drawn from Keanu's speech, trended worldwide, adopted as a mantra of compassion and understanding. Schools incorporated the message into curricula, therapists referenced it in sessions, and countless individuals found the courage to share their own stories of loss and healing. For Keanu and Leo, the aftermath of the summit was a time of reflection and quiet gratitude. Amidst the whirlwind of media attention and public acclaim, they remained grounded in the simple truth that had guided them from the beginning, that, by embracing vulnerability, they had opened the door for others to do the same. Life slowly resumed its rhythm, though forever altered by the journey they had undertaken. Letters continued to arrive by the thousands, each one a testament to the profound impact of their story. Keanu read them all, often sharing them with Leo during their quiet evenings together. One letter in particular stood out. It was from a young woman in a small village who had lost her father and had struggled in silence until she heard Keanu's words. "Your story gave me the courage to speak about my grief for the first time," she wrote. "For the first time in years, I feel seen. Thank you." Keanu's eyes welled with tears as he read the words aloud to Leo. "You see, buddy," he said softly, "this is why we did it." Leo nodded, a gentle smile playing on his lips. "I'm proud of you, Dad, and I think Mom would be too." In the quiet that followed, father and son sat side by side, hearts full, knowing that through the simple act of sharing their truth, they had ignited a movement of compassion that would continue to ripple outward, touching lives in ways they could never fully measure. Yet even as the world embraced their message, new challenges awaited, unexpected trials that would test their resilience and reaffirm the timeless truth they had come to embody. That in the depths of our shared humanity, it is kindness, perseverance, and empathy that light the way forward. When the storm comes, the days and weeks after Keanu's speech at the Global Mental Health Summit unfolded like a dream both beautiful and surreal, where the world had paused to listen, to reflect, and to embrace the fragile but powerful truth that grief and love are universal, and that there is courage in allowing ourselves to be seen. Messages of gratitude poured in from every continent, voices of strangers now bound to Keanu and Leo by invisible threads of shared humanity. Schools wrote to say that children had opened up about their feelings for the first time. Grieving parents expressed that Keanu's honesty had given them permission to speak of the ones they had lost. Mental health organizations reported an unprecedented surge in calls and outreach, a wave of human need finally finding air and light after being stifled for too long. Through it all, Keanu remained grounded, his days spent quietly with Leo, reading the letters that arrived by the hundreds, each one a testament to the power of kindness and vulnerability. Yet in the shadows of this global embrace, a different current was rising, one that neither father nor son had fully anticipated. With fame, even the most well-meaning fame, comes a relentless hunger from those who seek to turn it into spectacle. Keanu, long known for guarding his privacy, had opened a door that some were now eager to push through. Paparazzi began to swarm. Outside their Los Angeles home, their long lenses trained on every window and pathway. Journalists, desperate for a fresh angle, camped near his gate, shouting questions as father and son tried to go about their days. What had begun as an act of empathy was now at risk of becoming entertainment fodder. It was during one of these relentless afternoons that the storm truly broke. Leo, now navigating the early steps into adolescence, had begged to visit a local bookstore, one of his favorite places, a sanctuary of stories and wonder. Keanu, reluctant but unwilling to deny his son the simple joys of life, agreed. They chose a quiet weekday morning, hoping to avoid the crowds. Yet word had already spread. As they exited the store with a small stack of books clutched in Leo's arms, a swarm of photographers and onlookers closed in. The cameras flashed incessantly, voices barked invasive questions, and the atmosphere turned suffocating. Amidst the chaos, Leo's composure cracked. Clutching his father's hand tightly, he whispered, "Dad, I don't like this. I want to go home." Keanu, his heart torn between fury and helplessness, wrapped his arm protectively around his son and pushed through the crowd with quiet determination. Back in the safety of their home, Leo broke down, the weight of unwanted attention crashing upon his young shoulders. "Why are they doing this, Dad? I just wanted to buy books. Why can't they leave us alone?" His voice trembled with confusion and sorrow. Keanu knelt before his son, his own emotions a storm beneath his calm exterior. "I'm so sorry, buddy. This wasn't supposed to happen. Sometimes when the world focuses on you, it forgets that you're human. But I promise you, we will get through this together." Yet that night, as Leo slept fitfully, Keanu sat alone in his office, the same place where this journey had begun. The familiar photograph of Jennifer seemed to watch over him, her eyes filled with the empathy he so desperately needed. The guilt weighed heavily upon him. Guilt for bringing Leo into a spotlight neither of them had sought, for exposing their private pain to a world that now threatened to consume it. As dawn broke, Keanu made a decision. He would protect Leo, at all costs, even if it meant stepping back from the public advocacy that had grown so rapidly. The cause was noble, the impact undeniable, but his son's well-being came first. The following morning, over a quiet breakfast, Keanu shared his decision with Leo. "I've been thinking, buddy. Maybe we should take a step back. Let the world settle down a bit. You deserve your peace, your childhood." Leo looked at his father, eyes still tired from the previous day's ordeal. Yet what he said next surprised Keanu beyond measure. "I don't want to hide, Dad. I don't want to stop helping people, but maybe we can find a way to do it where they don't chase us." In that moment, Keanu saw not just the wisdom of a child, but the heart of a young man shaped by empathy and resilience. The boy who had once urged his father to speak now refused to let fear silence their message. Inspired anew, Keanu reached out to trusted allies, mental health advocates and digital strategists who could help him shift the focus from his personal life to the broader movement. Together, they developed a plan to create an online platform, one that would allow people from around the world to share their stories, support one another, and access resources, all without the invasive glare of celebrity media. They called it the Circle of Light, a name chosen by Leo himself, symbolizing the idea that when we share our light with others, the darkness of grief and loneliness can be diminished. Launching the platform was no small task, but Keanu poured his heart into it. Every video, every message was carefully crafted to center the voices of ordinary people, not the celebrity behind the initiative. Leo contributed too, offering insights on what young people needed to hear, how to make the space welcoming and safe. In its first week, the Circle of Light drew millions of visitors. Stories poured in, stories of loss, of healing, of resilience, and love. The community that formed within its virtual walls was one of compassion and profound humanity, a testament to the universal need for connection. And through it all, Keanu and Leo found their own healing deepening. The platform became a shared project, a new chapter in their journey where their private grief was transformed into public good, yet shielded from the harshest intrusions of fame. The cameras still lingered at times, the headlines still surfaced, but within their home and within the Circle of Light, they had reclaimed a space where empathy, not spectacle, reigned supreme. One evening, months after the platform's launch, Keanu and Leo sat together by the fireplace, reading some of the latest stories shared online. A message from a young boy who had lost his sister caught their attention. "I felt so alone," the boy had written. "But then I found the Circle of Light, and now I know that it's okay to cry, to remember, and to hope." Leo looked at his father, eyes shining. "We're helping, Dad, just like you said." Keanu smiled. The weariness of the past months, tempered by deep pride. "We're helping, buddy, and we'll keep helping. Together." Yet even as this new chapter unfolded with purpose and grace, an unexpected letter would soon arrive. A letter that would set in motion a series of events neither Keanu nor Leo could have foreseen. One that would once again test their resilience and remind them of the unbreakable bond forged through kindness, perseverance, and empathy. The letter that changed everything. Months had passed since the launch of the Circle of Light, and though the initial media frenzy had largely abated, the impact of Keanu and Leo's journey continued to ripple outward in ways neither of them could have fully imagined. The platform had blossomed into a vibrant community, with millions of members sharing their stories of grief, healing, and resilience. What had begun as a personal gesture born from a father's tears and a son's wisdom had evolved into a global movement, a testament to the simple truth that empathy, when shared, can change the world. Within the calm that had settled over their lives, Keanu and Leo found a new rhythm. Their days were filled with quiet joys, mornings spent reading together, afternoons exploring nature, and evenings devoted to responding personally to select messages from the Circle of Light. The bond between them, forged through vulnerability and deep understanding, had grown stronger than ever. They had faced the storm of fame and come through it with their integrity intact, guided always by the principle that kindness must remain at the heart of all they did. Yet life, with its endless capacity for surprise, had one more chapter to write in their story. It began on a crisp autumn morning, as golden light streamed through the windows of their home. Keanu was in his office, sorting through the latest batch of letters that continued to arrive from around the world. Among them, one envelope stood out, a simple unmarked envelope of thick cream paper. Curious, Keanu opened it and unfolded the letter inside. As he read the words, his breath caught and his eyes began to mist. The letter was from a woman named Claire, a nurse from a small town in Canada. Her story was one of quiet courage and profound sorrow. Several years earlier, Claire had lost her husband in a tragic accident. Left to raise their young daughter alone, she had struggled with overwhelming grief and the crushing weight of solitude. Though she had sought support, the stigma surrounding emotional vulnerability had kept her silent for too long. Then, one late night, unable to sleep, Claire had stumbled upon the video of Keanu's first message, the one filmed in the privacy of his office, where he had spoken openly of loss and healing. The honesty in his words had pierced the shell of her despair, offering a glimmer of hope she had not thought possible. From that moment, she had followed his journey, drawing strength from the stories shared on the Circle of Light. Slowly, tentatively, she had begun to open up. First to her daughter, then to her community. Inspired by Keanu and Leo's courage, Claire had organized a small grief support group in her town, one that had since grown to include dozens of members. Through their collective healing, lives had been transformed. The letter ended with a simple, heartfelt plea. "Mr. Reeves, we would be honored beyond words if you and Leo would visit us. You have given us so much. We would love the chance to say thank you in person and to show you what your kindness has created." Keanu sat in silence for a long moment, the letter trembling slightly in his hands. The depth of its sincerity touched him in a way few things had. Here, in a quiet corner of the world, the ripple of a single act of vulnerability had blossomed into a garden of healing and hope. When Leo entered the room a short while later, he found his father deep in thought, the open letter before him. "What's that, Dad?" he asked gently. Keanu looked up, eyes shining. "It's from someone we helped, buddy. Someone who found hope because of what we shared. And they're inviting us to visit." Leo's face lit up. "Are we going?" Keanu smiled, the decision already made in his heart. "Yes, I think we must." A few weeks later, father and son boarded a quiet flight to Canada, their hearts filled with anticipation and humility. They traveled not as celebrities, but as fellow travelers on the winding road of human experience. The town they arrived in was small and unassuming, nestled among rolling hills and dense forests. Yet within its modest community center, a remarkable gathering awaited them. Word of their visit had spread, and dozens of people, young and old from all walks of life, had assembled to greet them. Many held handmade signs bearing simple messages. Thank you for helping us heal. It's okay to feel. Kindness matters. As Keanu and Leo entered the room, the atmosphere shifted to one of profound reverence. There were no screams or flashes of cameras, only a deep, shared understanding that they were there not as icons, but as kindred souls. Claire, the nurse whose letter had begun this chapter, approached with her young daughter at her side. Tears filled her eyes as she spoke. Mr. Reeves, Leo, I can't express what this means to us. Your courage gave us the permission we needed to face our pain and find each other. You've changed our lives. Keanu embraced her gently, his own tears flowing freely. Thank you for inviting us, Claire. It is we who are honored to be here. The day that followed was one of shared stories and deep connection. Keanu and Leo listened as members of the group spoke of their journeys, of loss endured, of friendships formed, of a community reborn through empathy. There were moments of laughter, moments of tears, and moments of silent understanding that spoke louder than words ever could. Throughout it all, Leo remained by his father's side, his young heart absorbing the profound truth that even the smallest acts of kindness can ignite waves of healing far beyond what one might imagine. As the day drew to a close, the group gathered. For a final circle, hands joined in a quiet gesture of unity. Keanu spoke softly, his voice resonant with gratitude and humility. I never imagined that a moment of honesty shared in my small office would bring us here. But this is the true measure of what we can achieve when we open our hearts to one another. You have shown us that out of pain can come purpose, and out of grief can come community. Thank you from the depths of my soul. As they prepared to depart, Claire pressed a small handmade token into Keanu's hand, a simple wooden pendant inscribed with the words, Circle of Light. It's okay to feel. He accepted it with reverence, knowing that it symbolized something far greater than any accolade or award. On the flight home, as the sun set in hues of gold and crimson, Keanu and Leo sat side by side, the pendant resting between them. Leo looked up at his father, eyes filled with quiet wonder. Dad, did you ever think all of this would happen when you made that first video? Keanu smiled, his gaze soft and reflective. No, buddy. I never imagined it. But it taught me something, very important, that when we speak from the heart, when we choose kindness and empathy, we never know how far those ripples will reach. He placed a gentle hand on his son's shoulder. And none of this would have happened without you. You gave me the courage to begin. In the months and years that followed, the circle of light continued to grow, a living testament to the power of vulnerability and shared humanity. Keanu and Leo remained its quiet guardians, their bond deepened by the journey they had walked together. They knew that the path of empathy was endless, a road that would forever call them to walk with open hearts and unwavering kindness. And so their story, born from a moment of unguarded grief, became a beacon of hope for countless souls across the world, a story that whispered to all who heard it, it's okay to feel, it's okay to heal, and together, through kindness and courage, we can light the way forward. A legacy of light months turned into a full year since the day Keanu Reeves and his son Leo had traveled to the small Canadian town that had embraced them with such open hearts. In the time that had passed, the world continued to turn. New stories filled the headlines. New faces emerged in the media cycle. But beneath the constant noise of daily life, the circle of light endured, steadily, growing into a living, breathing network of human connection. What had begun as one man's spontaneous act of vulnerability, encouraged by his son's innocent wisdom, had now evolved into a global movement that transcended fame, nationality, and circumstance. More than 12 million members from every corner of the earth now contributed their voices to the platform. Therapists and mental health professionals volunteered their time, communities sprang up around shared experiences, and an entire generation of young people began to understand that their feelings mattered, that being open was not weakness but strength. For Keanu, this ongoing ripple of goodness brought quiet fulfillment. He had never sought awards or praise for his efforts, nor did he seek to become the face of any movement. Rather, he saw himself as a humble steward, helping to nurture a space where kindness, empathy, and healing could flourish long after the cameras had moved on. Leo, now blossoming into his teenage years, had likewise grown wiser through their shared journey. No longer the wide-eyed boy who had first walked into his father's office that fateful morning, he had come to understand the complex interplay between grief and growth, and how even the deepest sorrow could become a wellspring of compassion. Yet as the anniversary of the platform's founding approached, a new opportunity arose, one that would challenge both father and son to reflect deeply on what they had built, and on what legacy they wished to leave behind. It began with a letter from the United Nations, this time inviting Keanu and Leo to collaborate on a new global initiative aimed at embedding emotional education into school systems around the world. The project, titled Light in Every Classroom, sought to equip children with tools for emotional resilience from an early age, normalizing open conversations about grief, anxiety, and hope within the framework of formal education. The invitation was both an honor and a profound responsibility. Keanu and Leo spent many evenings discussing whether to accept. They both understood that such a project would place them back in the public eye, perhaps more than ever before. Yet they also recognized that the need was great, and that their unique voice, shaped by authenticity and lived experience, could help spark meaningful change. One evening, as they sat beneath the stars in their quiet backyard, Leo voiced what both had come to feel. "Dad, I think we should do it. If this can help kids like me learn to talk about their feelings without shame, then maybe it's worth whatever attention comes with it." Keanu looked at his son with deep pride, moved by his courage. "You're right, buddy. We started this together. And if we're going to keep helping, we do it together too." And so they agreed to take part. Over the following months, Keanu and Leo worked closely with educators, psychologists, and child development experts to shape the new initiative. They filmed video messages, contributed written content, and participated in live discussions with teachers and students from diverse backgrounds. Importantly, they insisted that the project remain grounded in simplicity and accessibility. No complicated jargon, no celebrity-driven narratives, just real human conversation about the experiences that shape us all. As the program launched in pilot schools across 5 countries, the initial feedback was overwhelming. Teachers reported that children were opening up in ways they had never seen before. Classroom discussions about feelings, once awkward or avoided, became moments of connection and mutual understanding. Students who had struggled silently began to find their voices, encouraged by the knowledge that their emotions were valid and shared. Keanu and Leo traveled to several of these schools in person, participating in workshops and speaking candidly with students. In one particularly moving visit to a school in rural Japan, a young boy approached Keanu after a session, tears welling in his eyes. Through a translator, he shared that he had lost his grandmother the year before and had been too ashamed to talk about how much he missed her. "But now I know it's okay to feel," the boy whispered, his voice trembling. Keanu knelt and embraced him gently. "Yes, it is okay," he replied softly. "And it's brave to share that with others." Moments like these reaffirmed the purpose that had guided their journey from the very beginning. The world was changing, slowly but surely. One classroom, one conversation, one child at a time. As the first full year of Light in Every Classroom came to a close, the United Nations hosted a special gathering to honor those who had contributed to its success. Though Keanu had once shunned such ceremonies, this time he accepted, knowing that the true recognition belonged not to him, but to every child who had found the courage to speak because of the initiative. During the event, Keanu and Leo stood before a room filled with educators, advocates, and young students whose lives had been touched by the program. In his speech, Keanu spoke not of personal achievement, but of shared humanity. "We began this journey with a simple truth, that grief, love, and hope are universal experiences, that when we choose to speak from the heart, we create spaces where others feel safe to do the same. Today, as I look at the faces of these young people, I see a future where kindness and empathy are not exceptions, but expectations. And I am reminded once again that the most powerful legacy we can leave is not in the roles we play, but in the lives we touch. When the event concluded, Leo leaned close to his father. "I'm glad we did this, Dad. I think Mom would be too." Keanu placed an arm around his son's shoulders, his heart full. "She would be very proud, buddy. And so am I." As they returned home, Keanu reflected on the long and winding path that had brought them here. From a quiet office where tears had once fallen freely, to classrooms around the world where children now learned that it was okay to feel. The journey was far from over. New challenges would arise, new opportunities to serve would present themselves. But one thing remained certain. Together, guided by kindness, perseverance, and empathy, he and Leo would continue to walk this path, lighting the way for others, one gentle step at a time. And so, their story became not just one of personal healing, but a legacy of light, a testament to the truth that when we dare to be human with one another, when we choose compassion over concealment, we create a world where even the deepest wounds can give rise to hope, connection, and lasting change.